I spend my life researching and teaching people how to live a powerful life. I am a believer. I stand for the transformation of humanity. I have found my purpose. My name is Gabrielle McGee, and I am the Rebellious Therapist. So welcome to my Rebellious Therapist podcast. And today's guest is a father, a leader, an entrepreneur. He's also a visionary, and he's also my friend. So I want to welcome Michael Taggart. So Michael is someone who he's a property developer and is a founder of Michael has founded Target Homes, and he's built 10,000 houses over his time of doing business within that company. He's a property developer, and he also has a massive background in business, and really wanted to have a conversation with Michael about the word resilience. I think that's something that I really wanted to, share with people. I think when resilience is, when you've got a real resilience in life, you can become a winner in whatever part of your life you want to apply that sort of process. And a lot of people ask me, my clients and in the past that I work with is, it's something that they really would love to have more of. So I'm really, really, really interested to have this conversation and really learn from Michael about how he sees resilience and how he's applied resilience and what resilience means for him. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
So the purpose of this sort of podcast today is to really have a look at the conversation about resilience. I feel the new generation, if I could teach them anything in life as a therapist, one of the things I'd really be interested they would learn at a very young age is the word resilience and what that really means and how to really apply that to their life. And why have I asked you here today? Because I feel you are one person that I know in my life who has really that master of resilience whenever, watching everything you've done in your lifetime, always seeing, that you're up to massive projects and always looking at you thinking, my God, how does he do that? So today's a really fantastic opportunity, even for me, to have that conversation with you, because I would really love to know, where does Michael Taggart go when he has to really push that machine up the hill? So welcome.
Thank you. It's an interesting question. And, I suppose it depends on the challenge at the time. And through my life, there's been a variety of challenges.
Yeah.
Many of them I wish I did not have to overcome. And, I suppose if we're talking business, anybody that is thinking about business or thinking about accomplishing something has got to understand, first of all, it's not easy. Or everybody would be doing it, and that's an old quote that you hear, but don't let that put anybody off. I suppose my view of it is, if you can imagine it, then you can do it. And that's the first thing. And, it's a case of, I think a lot of people, and certainly I would have thought about, if I'm going to do something in my earlier days, about the mix of issues potentially that I would have faced, and many issues that I had no idea that I was going to face that were set in front of me. But the first rule is, I suppose, one day at a time, one issue at a time. And there has been many times there has been issues and problems, obstacles we'll call them, obstacles that on a particular day that you couldn't get around and you couldn't think of a way around. But it's actually amazing how a night's sleep can change your view of it.
Yes.
And too many people could possibly, and these are only things that I have learned that I'm quite happy to pass on to anyone. You know, take a rain check. If you can't resolve it today, let it sit until tomorrow. And there's very few things that doesn't pass. Most things pass. Just give it time. And but keep at it. Don't give up. That's the main thing. Do not give up. Wow. Ever. And if you get knocked down, get back up. That's hugely important. There is many times that, many times I fell off the ladder, and you just get up and get back on it, and that's it. And start in the bottom step and step out again.
Wow. Amazing. Where do you think, because it's like not every man has the getting up again. Where do you think you've learned that in your lifetime, Michael?
I'm not sure I've learned it. Well, if I go back to my childhood in Northern Ireland, and you had a certain set of tools to work with, and if you didn't work with them, then you didn't have anything. So it was, it was in me from the word go, to there's not even another thought other than keep going. You've got to keep going, and because if you don't keep going, you will perish. If you don't have a vision, you will perish. So you just have to keep going, and it might be it's okay to be tired for a day. It's okay to take a day out, but back at it the next day. Great. Back at it.
So would you say that's your nature?
It is now. Yeah. Yeah. No, it would be. But not in any. It's just life. It's just the way I am. It's what you have to do. I would rather be worn out at the end of the day having tried than be sitting lethargic and not have tried. Plus the fact I've experienced many highs from accomplishing something. I love accomplishing something. And I love completing something. And that's a great high. So you're constantly continuing, looking for that buzz.
Very good, because I think that's a really good point, right? I think for a lot of people, what happens if they have, fallen off the ladder, or life has given them a knock, they sort of focus on that part too much, where you've already described, you've experienced that high strong enough to keep you to remind you that that's where you want to go. And I think there's a massive difference in how people perform whenever that's their bigger pull than the actual focusing on the actual problem that brought them down, or feeling that they're down and they can't get up, where it's more of a feeling rather than just an idea. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. I think a lot of it is fear. Fear-driven, that holds a lot of people back, possibly. And it would be. It's easy. It would be easy to be scared. Yeah. But and highs. Having a high doesn't necessarily need to be from a monetary accomplishment or a business accomplishment. I mean, if you get a high from sports, doing something, you feel that buzz, that feel good, having accomplished something. Yeah. So yeah, the adrenaline, and then you want to. I would just apply that to business as well, and then I suppose about 20 years ago, and which took it to a different level. More than 20 years ago now, 25 years ago, I was training along with a guy, and he was one of the first people I ever knew to introduce scientific training. So there's a couple of things in my life. I was brought up to work. I suppose to start with that, I was brought up to work, and my father, if I had been sent out on a job or a mission, I would have called it, looking after cattle or sheep or.
So you were born on a farm.
I was born on the farm,
that?
yeah. So I was working on the farm from I was 8 years old. So we were programmed to work.
Yes.
And there wasn't a lot, but there was enough. And we would have. The first thing is, well, if you were sent on a job, you weren't going to let your father down. You weren't going to not come back and report back on something not done. So that mission was there. So then you went on and worked through all of that, and there was no job too big. And, I suppose one of the highs would have been as well, when something would have been accomplished or finished or completed or whatever, you always look for your father to give you the credit for it. So that was very good. And then when you were working, I realised, I suppose, fairly young, that for anybody, in regard to your own, what it takes to keep you yourself, it takes very little. So anything on top of that was a bonus. So in my mind, I would have converted that into, that's where the buzz is coming from. Anything over and above what you actually need to live on. And you need very little. And I see need as different to want, So you would have got the buzz from that. I would have got the buzz from that. Speaking about myself, I would have got the buzz from that, and then would have got involved in certain things that I liked, certain challenges, and I had massive aspirations as to what I wanted to do, and it was because that it was there to play with, it was there to do, and I wanted to do it, and I enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed the accomplishments. So then I went on, as I say, and I started training with this guy about 25 years ago, and he was the first man that I had ever seen doing scientific training, he called it, and usually.
And he's a cyclist, is he?
He's a cyclist, yeah.
Exactly.
And Joe Barr.
Yeah.
And I trained along with Joe for a couple of years, and he put me through some serious paces. And that wasn't just physical endurance, that was mental endurance. And it took me to a new level completely of endurance and resilience.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would say I was maxed right out at the endurance side of things.
Very good.
And resilient.
So how did you bring that into the business then? How did that impact you to move forward?
Well, it was a mental endurance, and it demonstrated what you could take, and it didn't. How did I bring it in? Well, you would have dealt with bigger challenges.
Yeah.
You weren't afraid of bigger challenges.
Yes.
As I say, taking one day at a time, moving forward. Should it be an inch today, a metre tomorrow, or a mile the next day? You got to keep moving forward. And as each obstacle presented themselves, there was a simple philosophy. If I didn't know how to resolve it, I found somebody that could resolve it or help me resolve it.
Yes.
Or resolve it for me.
Very good.
Yeah. So it was just, taking it one step at a time.
Very good. So that's great to know that, for all those young boys, when I think on my nephews who's playing sport today, when they're on the Gaelic pitch and they're playing and they're I'd love for for the actual sports world to start training them that
Oh, they
for
are.
their business?
No, the sports
Oh,
world
are
is.
they?
Yes, the sports world. And
excellent.
it's one of the things that I totally admire about the sports world today, in particular.
Fabulous.
The GAA is watching those lads on the pitch, and they are top of their game. So they are, in
Excellent.
terms of fitness. It's and I understand what they're doing, and you know the endurance that's involved there,
Excellent.
and you know that is, you know, that is a total psychological challenge of what they're doing. Aside from their skill and their physical fitness.
Wow, brilliant. So, say like a lot of times my clients show up. You know, they're young, they're in their 20s. They want to find their purpose. They want to, you know, really they want to have a choice in life rather than, you know, when they look back at their ancestors or their mums and all, would they feel, you know, sort of, you know, it's a different time now, Michael. You know, the young girls are getting on planes, they're solo traveling, they've got professional jobs, they're going off to companies in New York and, you know, all over the world. You know, because a lot of the girls that I work with, they're actually traveling and they're worldwide. And it's very different from when I grew up, even. It's very different from 15 to 20 years ago. But they still haven't got that sort of advice or that sort of understanding. What advice would you give them about life at that point?
Don't wait for something to turn up. Go and turn it up yourself.
Yeah.
It's not there. You have to look for it. I would say to anybody, and it's very easy in this new world of digital to get influenced by a lot of stuff that's happening in the digital world, which is I have my own opinion of that, and it's not real, and it's dressed and characterized to influence many people, and you know, it's living through a digital world which is not a real world. So, and I think most of it's fake, and it's great the people that's doing it. They're, you know, it's a job that has to be done, and it's marketing. It's all about marketing.
It's a wonderful marketing.
It's amazing.
Amazing how the marketing.
But it's not the real world.
Yeah.
And you know, I think there's a confusion lifting their phone and looking at this and seeing it, but they don't actually have it.
Yeah.
So I think you have to go. I think first of all, if I were starting over again today, I'm not sure I would do things much different, but I would be asking myself at the end of my journey, who do I want to be and what do I want to have? What does that look like? So after I would establish that, I would try to figure out, well, how I'm going to get there and what I'm going to do along the way to make that happen. Because you have to create opportunities if you want to be successful. And it's fine, not everybody needs to be successful. I mean, for me personally, and I'm just digressing slightly, I think that anybody that gets up in the morning and goes to work, should it be 95, 86, whatever, 10 to 4, I think anybody that gets up in the morning and carries out a role in life is hugely successful and is very integral to all of our well-being, you know, nurses, doctors, drivers, everybody. I think everybody's hugely, so I don't measure people at all in that way. In any other way, other than if they're trying, they're very successful. Because as I said at the outset, you know, beyond what you need yourself to survive is the buzz and gives you choices and financial freedom and all of that. And I think the most important thing of all is to be in a good place in your mind and in a good mental position and very happy in your mind. But you know, going back to the young people and starting out, don't let anybody or anything kill your dream. But mark out where you want to be, what you want to do, and then work out either what you're good at or what you're happiest at, and go for that or something you're interested in. Take it a day at a time, take it a step at a time, you've got to go into completely uncharted territory for yourself in order to be successful. You will not know if you're working for yourself what tomorrow is going to look like, potentially. If you want to be successful, you've got to step into the dark. Otherwise, you will be facing the same thing every day.
Very good. So mindset's a massive.
Mindset's it's everything, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I think what's really being the sort of greatest sort of moment for me is that they're actually reaching out and doing therapy before they even start to live their life, before the damage is done. Because to me, I think life's really a great way of looking at prevention rather than cure.
Oh, yeah.
And in my day, you didn't go to therapy unless you had a problem. Where they're like, no, we want to find this stuff out before we even get there. I mean, I'm talking about 21-year-olds, 23-year-olds who hasn't even lived and is asking me the important questions, and I'm like, oh my God, what a gift for me as a therapist to be in the life of someone who's got that mindset and who we can prevent and guide and mentor and have them arrive somewhere where they're empowered and they're educated.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say to you is, do you have a mentor in your life?
Well, the straight answer to that's no. But there's many people that would influence me.
Yes.
And from all walks of life. And I would have and I wouldn't be scared to talk to people. And, I could be talking to people in the gym. And if you're talking and you're listening and you're talking from the right place, people will share conversation and information with you, and there's a lot to be learned from that.
Yes.
But going back to what you were saying about the people now getting help as they go along, and I was just thinking to myself, when I was a kid, we were doing a mixture of things, bringing in hay, or going out in the snow and frost with a bale of hay in your back to walk through wet fields to feed cattle or sheep or whatever it was. Or maybe we were in the up in the mountains taking out peat.
So peat, explain what peat is.
Peat? Turf?
For the fire.
Yes.
You burn in the fire.
Surprise. I thought you were from the country.
I know, but just for the listeners.
Briquettes. But
the posh word.
Yeah, briquettes.
Yeah.
But anyway, something that was, for me, from the age of 8 years of age onwards, had a physical challenge attached to it. And or it could have been gathering potatoes. Well, or gathering stones of a field, right? And this wasn't a one-off memory.
Yeah.
This would have been every day, all these different chores or working with cattle or whatever. But the point about it is, when we were finished the day's work, we didn't need any help to get to sleep or settle our mind.
Job done.
Mission completed.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, got it.
And it was great.
Yeah.
It really was great.
I really hear it.
It really was great.
For you.
And that was, I think, look, and it's great kids are not having to work as hard as that today.
Yeah.
And they've more time to think, maybe more time to dream up problems and think about challenges. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just get on with it. Do it. Whatever your passion is, whatever your dream is, go for it. Nobody's going to say anything to anybody for trying.
Yeah, very good. So my next question is, you've got children, right?
Yep.
What advice do you give them? And your children's like, you've got one son obviously who is what age is your oldest?
Next 28.
28. But then you've got
yeah, James is 14, Johnny's 12, Adriana's 9.
Yeah, and they're I've met your kids a lot, and they are so well balanced, and they are so amazing and articulated and integrated.
Thank you.
So my question to you is, what advice do you give your kids on it? Because I see you talk to them daily. I see you guide them daily. And I see the results in front of me from everything you've been doing. So what is that advice?
It's funny you ask that today. Two of the lads went to the grammar school this morning.
Oh, wow.
Johnny and James. So we had a chat this morning.
Yes.
At the table, myself and them. And I tend not to make it very long. But, you know, I pointed out the importance of where they're at and where they're going, and they need to be honest with themselves and to stay grounded and make sure if they're in a race that they come first.
I knew you were going to say that. That you want them.
Yeah.
And they will.
Yeah. So, and
that's funny.
Yeah.
Very good.
Give it your all.
Excellent.
Basically.
And you know, I think it's a really special moment, because I know, you know, for kids, maybe sometimes parents don't communicate at that level, or don't even think about it, or don't have the time to. So I think there's something really important about that level of guidance, Michael. You know, when they're at that, you know, especially when they're turning into the sort of, you know, those difficult years for boys, you know, from 12 upwards. It's like life does go a certain way and goes, you know, into a very, very different zone.
I can only speak for me and them. And, you know, sports plays a big part.
Yeah.
All the boys are at the gym. And Adriana's wanting to start running now as well. And
because that was my next question. Do you give a different advice to the boys than you do to Adriana?
Well, Adriana's right. That's it.
No, I know.
Which boy caused the problem? Yeah. No, the sports side of things is hugely important. The boys have been running for a few years, and they train with me in the gym and in Connor's gym.
Yes.
Focus Gym, Dungiven.
Yeah.
Great place, great environment. Connor's brilliant with them. And that's hugely important.
Yes.
You know, they would be disgruntled maybe going out and disagreeing with each other, you know, and on the way home, I'd be thinking to myself, if these boys had a couple of pints, like, you know, they're happy out. And do you want anything? And it's very funny to watch all of that.
Very good.
So now we talk, we communicate, we talk, and we talk on a very, very grounded level. And we're very close as well. And in everything, I think, and the one thing I haven't said, it's honesty.
Yeah.
And we speak from our heart. And even in business, or trying to do something, or meeting someone and trying to get something done, you know, there's a real sincereness that it's just being honest and sharing what you're wanting to do or wanting to achieve. And I found that helps.
Actually, it's really interesting you say that, because, you know, I worked down with your company for 2 years. And then when I say visionary, like, you brought me into the company, and there's about 300 men, I think, at that time. I don't know how many there are now, but there's subcontractors. And we were really having a very advanced conversation in your company that no other contracting organisation would even have dreamt of. And there I am down there. It was the most wonderful time and work I've ever done, because the men in your, you know, the men that was there really they got so much value, and you were taken care of. And there were, you know, there was a lot of conflict in the construction industry, and we had taken all of that and given them a workplace of, you know, where people were coming and every day wanted them to come to work, and the stress went. And, you know, you were that guy who's seen that of great value in construction?
Yeah, well, I would genuinely feel for, pardon me, for any man or any woman that has to get up every morning, as I do, at 5, 6, 7 o'clock and go out and earn a day's pay to keep their family.
Yeah.
And how important that is to them, and how difficult it is as well, and goodness knows how they're feeling, right? So I would be aware of that, and or conscious of it, and would give anybody a chance to speak. I think as well, probably one of the things is, I would trust the individuals after you get to know them and they know you, and trust them and let them get on with their work. And I think there's a lot to be gained from that. I think, people like to be trusted. They like to be depended on. Yeah. So I would do that. And basically, if that goes askew, well, that's up to them.
Very good.
Themselves.
It's a responsibility of them.
It's their own responsibility. Yeah. And things happen, and they genuinely happen, and that doesn't mean it's the end of the relationship. Keep cool and just look at it and see.
Very good. Excellent advice. So, Michael, we've nearly come to the end of my podcast with you, right? And one of the questions I ask everyone who is part of this conversation is the name of my podcast is The Rebellious Therapist. So the Rebellious Therapist to me is part of, working with people, not getting limited to where, the sort of process in the therapeutic world sort of took you. I didn't accept no for an answer. I kept looking further. How can we, really research and do the work and have people get results rather than leave people, there had to be a level of resilience and rebel. I had to rebel against some stuff in there to go beyond what they call breaking boundaries or whatever, but I got results. So where in your life and there's probably many places, but where, if you were to pick one of them, has it been of great value for you to be that rebel? Yeah.
There's genuinely been too many to name one.
As I thought.
Yeah. And my simple theory is that loads of people have loads of opinions, and they're good opinions, and you listen to advice and all the rest, but at the end of the day, you have to be capable of making up your own mind and backing yourself. So I would say, and what I would have done many a time if I was faced with a situation where there was loads of opinions and loads of voices and all of that coming at me, the first thing I wouldn't have done was make a decision. I would pull back, I would go off, and I would process everything. And, I can't think of any time that by the end of whatever I was doing, I might have went off on a bike, I might have went off running, I might have went off for a walk, I might have went off for something. And the idea, it's funny how it worked with me. The idea for me was, hopefully by the end of that journey, I would have processed all of what had been said or happening or whatever, and that it would have helped me to make a decision.
Very good.
So I would have made the journey or the run or the walk or whatever it was, and I would never have thought about it once. Never. I would have kept it out of my mind completely, and I would have walked and thought about everything. But when I was finished, the answer was there in front of me.
Wow. So that's the process.
And that was my process. And I'm not saying it was right every time, but it was naturally there in front of me, what it was.
Very good.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So.
And that's advice I would give to anybody. And I think, a weapon that's not often used is do nothing. When you're forced into a position to do something where you're not sure, And if you're not sure about it, don't do anything.
Oh, do nothing. Yeah.
And if you're being forced to react to something that you're not comfortable with, don't react. Let it sit. Everything passes. I've had many dark days. And, where you thought there was no light at all coming through. But the next day is completely different. And it'll give you a different view, and there will be light.
Wow. Thank you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
all that wise information. And I think this has been a really one of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, thank you.
And so look, until we meet again, Michael, thank you so much.
All right, thanks.
You've been listening to the Rebellious Therapist podcast. For more information, you can follow me, the Rebellious Therapist, on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You can find further information on my website, therebellioustherapist.com. Until next time, thanks for listening.